Hello everyone, welcome to Jumbo IS. So as we discussed in our introduction lecture of Phoenix batch that we are going to give you notes in advance, and based on those notes we are going to give you 20 MCQs daily, and which will cover your entire current affair of past 1 and 1.5 year. Okay, so we know that these 20 topics per day are very important and can be asked in UPSC Prelims 2026. So we are going to discuss 20 MCQs for today, and this will go on for next 6 to 7 days, and whole environment chapter will be completed. Whole module will be completed, and if any question comes from environment current affair, then 80 to 90% chances are that that will be correct by you guys. Okay, so let's start with the first MCQ. First MCQ says what? First, with reference to National Green Tribunal, it always remains in the news that what is the structure of this body, how it was formed, and basically what is the procedure by which it delivers its judgment. Okay, so NGT, consider the following statement. Number one, it was established under the National Green Tribunal Act 2010. So we have to remember that the year is very important, and if it is made from an act, then it is a statutory body. So NGT is a statutory body which was formed entirely for hearing the environmental related cases, because we want speedy justice and speedy disposal of environment cases so that minimum harm can be done to our environment. Second is, it has been constituted for the effective and expeditious disposal of cases relating to environmental protection and conservation of forest. Yes, the main objective for creation of NGT was this. So this statement is also correct. It is bound by the procedure laid down under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. It does not follow this particular code. It follows the principle of natural justice, sustainable development, and etc., that environment should not be harmed. Even if it is written in procedural code, then it will not be used by NGT. Okay, so the statement number third is incorrect. It applies the principle of sustainable development, precautionary principle, and polluters pay principle while passing orders. Yes, the idea is that there is a broad concept that environment should be minimum harmed, and there should be the relation between coexistence and cooperation with the environment. Okay, so economy should not be compromised for environment and vice versa. So yes, it applies the principle of this. It is written in its gadget. So if we say that which of the statement given above are correct, so 1, 2 and 4 are correct, then answer will be your A, 1, 2 and 4 only. Okay, so the question can come in these kinds of forms. There can be 2 statements, there can be 4 statements, there can be the number of statements that would be asked, that how many statements are correct. Only 2 correct. There will be no option like 1 and 2 only, or 2 and 3. How many statements are correct? It can be 2 and third statement, or it can be fourth and first statement. So we have to be prepared for all kind of questions. Okay, next we will cover, with reference to state of finances of for forest report 2025, consider the following statement. This is basically the report which says that how much finance has been given for the conservation of forests. Okay, so number one, nearly 90% of global forest finance in 2023 came from public sources, by the government, not by the private companies and individuals. Okay, this statement is correct. Tropical commodity sector receives the largest share of private forest finance. Basically, tropical commodity sector receive the minimum of private forest finance. So it was the basically limitation of this financial structure, that tropical forests, which are considered to be the lungs of the earth in Amazon and in Congo forest and etc., there the finance is very much less in these forests. Okay, so next is, environmentally harmful agricultural subsidies exceed sustainable forest finances flow. Basically, these statements are based on the report. That may be true, that may not be true, but if the question is asked that with reference to this report, then we have to just take the reference of that report only. Okay, so yes, the report says that there's agricultural subsidies which are harmful for environment, like you give subsidy for urea, you give subsidy for different pesticides and fertilizers, which ultimately harm the soil and which is going to harm the crop yield, and ultimately the desertification will be there, and there will be no fertility and there will be no crop plantation. So there will be a long-term negative impact. And yes, these agricultural subsidies exceed sustainable forest finance flows, even if the finances are very much in number. But if you are going to give you these subsidies in large amount, then it will not be compensated. So this statement is correct. India spends more domestically on forest conservation than it receives in international forest aid. Yes, India's finance is very much in abundance. That we are giving finances under CAMPA, which is Compensatory Afforestation Management and Planning Authority. That if industry is going to clear a forest for establishment of any industry, then a compensatory afforestation should be done at any other location. So that is basically the finances given by the industry, so that state forest departments are responsible for creation of different forest in any other location of state area. Okay, so yes, India spends more domestically than receiving the international forest aids. So we know that which is asked, which of the statement given above are correct. So first is correct, second is incorrect. If second is incorrect, then three options are already eliminated. So even if you don't know the third and fourth statement, the correct answer is in front of you guys. Okay, so we have to also remember that how to eliminate the options. So number 1, statement 1, 3 and 4 is correct. Next is with reference to UN High Seas Treaty, BBNJ agreement, which is biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions. Consider the following statement. Basically, UN clause is there. United Nations Convention on Law of Sea in 1982 was there, and as the land boundaries are demarcated in very effective manner, the water boundaries were not demarcated at that time. So in 1982, ISA was established, International Seabed Authority was established, and every country has the water area up to a particular limit, that up to from the baseline up to 12 nautical mile there will be territorial waters, that every resource, every fish, everything is in the jurisdiction of that area of that country. Then we have from baseline to 24 nautical mile, we have this 12 nautical mile contiguous zone, and after that 200 nautical mile from the baseline is basically your exclusive economic zone. Means the minerals and resources belong to that country. So that is basically 200 nautical mile is the area within the jurisdiction of a country. But what is beyond the national jurisdiction, and if any marine biodiversity is present there, then responsibilities of which country that this marine biodiversity is to be preserved. So for that, BBNJ agreement was there, that biodiversity protection is very much necessary even if the area does not lie in your jurisdiction. So about that, the statements are there. First, it establishes mechanism for marine protected areas in areas beyond national jurisdictions. Yes, beyond 200 nautical miles. Second statement, its provision applies to warship and naval auxiliary vessels. No, there is some exemptions, that this treaty and agreement does not apply to warships and auxiliary vessels of Navy. Okay, this statement is wrong because it relates to the national security and integrity of a nation. Okay, second, India has ratified the agreement. India has signed the agreement, but it has not still ratified the agreement. Ratification means you have to ratify that in your parliament, that you are going to follow all the rules and regulations which are written in this agreement. So India has not ratified the agreement yet. So if we say that which of the above statement given above are incorrect, so first is correct, 2 and 3 are incorrect. So answer will be your 2 and 3. So this is very important that you read the question very carefully, that if correct statement or incorrect statement is asked. Okay, so answer will be C, 2 and 3. Next we have with reference to Ramsar Convention and COP 15 outcomes, consider the following statement. Ramsar Convention was in 1971 and it was related to the protection and conservation of wetlands. Wetlands are very much important because it provides the aesthetic value, the drinking water for animals and humans, and it is responsible for groundwater recharge. So we use that water, and it is very important for every individual and every species. So wetland has to be conserved effectively, and for that Ramsar Convention was signed in Iran area. Basically the Ramsar is a site in Iran. So India has also ratified the convention in 1975. Okay, so India has the largest number of Ramsar sites globally. India today has 96 Ramsar sites, but it is highest in Asia continent but not globally. So we know that UK globally has the largest or highest number of Ramsar sites. So this statement is wrong. Wetland city accreditation is valid for the 6 years. Okay. Chilika Lake. Okay, if the statement number 1 is wrong, we have asked that which of the statement given above is incorrect. So 1 is incorrect. So 2 and 3, in which 1 was not there. So this option number 2 and 3 is gone. Chilika Lake is currently listed in Montreux record. Montreux record was basically a register in which those wetlands are registered which are threatened with extinction. That the pollution level is too high, the diversity is not being protected here. So Chilika Lake was in the Montreux record, but it was taken out of the register because we have done a lot of work for its restoration. Okay, so the statement is also wrong. So third statement is wrong. So 1 and 3 is also wrong, and yes, second statement is right, that wetland city accreditation is valid for 6 years, that this city is using very much amount of technology for the conservation and preservation of any wetland in that area. So wetlands are basically that land which is partially below the water for the whole year and partially below the water for some time of the year. We have known, for example, like ponds, the lakes, the reservoirs, the artificial created lakes and ponds, etc. Okay, the paddy fields. Even if paddy fields are not in the India's definition of wetlands, but it's still being counted in wetland areas. Okay, so the statement, the option number 1 and 3 is incorrect. So option A is your the right answer, because 1 and statement number 3 were incorrect. Next, we'll discuss, consider the following statement regarding river dolphin and conservation initiatives. Number 1, both Gangetic and Indus River dolphins are listed under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. WPA 1972 has now 4 schedules. Schedule number 1, the species which are highly protected, and if you hunt or poach that species, then there will be highest fine and jail imprisonment. Then schedule 2, the species with less amount of threatened with extinction, and species number the schedule number 3 is basically for plants, and schedule number 4 is basically for those species which are listed in CITES index, CITES appendix basically. Okay, so even if a species is protected in one country, then it should be protected in every other country, and its trade will be prohibited. So schedule number 1, 2, 3, 4 are very important. They basically have been amended because WPA originally had 6 schedules, and schedule 4 has vermin species that you can hunt or kill them even if they harm your crop or any other or spread any disease. Okay, so that schedule has been removed for now. So yes, river dolphins, basically Gangetic dolphin are India's national aquatic animal, and we know that it is a kind of blind species and which hunt its food through ultrasonic wave transmission. Okay, so yes, both Gangetic and Indus River dolphin are under Schedule 1 because these are highly protected. They remain in freshwater ecosystem, and if pollution level is too high, then these species will not be found. So these are basically indicator species of water pollution. So number statement 1 is correct. Indus River dolphin population in India is confined to the Beas River. Yes, initially Indus River dolphin were found in Ravi River as well and Beas River as well, but their number has been decreased to a large extent, and these are only confined to the Beas River now. The Baiji is basically the name of dolphin in China's Yangtze River. So Baiji is currently classified as extinct by IUCN. It is not officially extinct. It is basically very less in number. So there is possibility that this species will be extincted, but it is not officially announced. Okay, so this statement number 3 is incorrect. So first is correct and second is correct. So answer will be your C, 1 and 2 only, because option number 3 is incorrect. So we know that Gangetic and Indus River dolphin, we know that dolphins are basically of 2 types. One is freshwater dolphin, second is a saltwater dolphin. So freshwater dolphin are basically in India's Gangetic River, in Indus River, in Yangtze's China's Yangtze River, and in Amazon River of Brazil. So in Amazon River it is known as Boto, in Yangtze River it is known as Baiji, in Indus it is known as Bhulan, and in India it is known as Susu. Okay, so these four names are very important to be remembered. Also, saltwater dolphins are generally found in Irrawaddy River and the areas around Andaman Sea. Okay, so basically the dolphins are of two types. It can be freshwater, it can be salt water. In India's case, we are basically concerned about river dolphins, which are freshwater dolphins. Okay, so statement number C, option number C was the answer. Next, we'll discuss with reference to major reports published by UNEP. Consider the following reports. That which reports are being published by UNEP, UN Environment Program. Number one, emission gap report. Yes, it is basically the report which let us know that the required reduction of emission is this much, but we are doing this much only. So there is a gap between the required decrease in emissions and actual decrease in emissions. So that report is by UNEP every year. Adaptation gap report, again the level of adaptation is less because every country is not getting the required finances for creating the infrastructure which will help them in adapting the climate resilience. Okay, so yes, it is published by UNEP. Global environmental outlook, yes, that whole globe is basically facing the climate change, the global warming, the pollution, in case of plastic pollution, ozone depletion, etc. And this is basically the outlook for the whole year. And yes, this report was published by UNEP. The number 4 statement or report is World Economic Outlook. It is basically economic outlook. So UNEP is basically for environment. So economic outlook will be published by IMF and not by UNEP. So we know that how many reports are published by UNEP. So 1, 2 and 3 only. Option A will be the correct answer. So these questions are basically asked. So it is very important that these easy questions should be corrected by us. Next is with reference to UNESCO's World Network of Biosphere Reserves, WNBRs, consider the following. Basically, UNESCO has MAB program, which is Man and Biosphere program, which was started in 1971, and under this, every country registered the list of biosphere reserves, and every biosphere reserve has 3 areas. First, it has buffer area, then it has transition area, and then it has core area. So as we move from buffer to transition to core, the prohibition of different activity increases. Okay, so the core area is very much important to be preserved, and this is the biosphere reserve. Okay, so it is under UNESCO's MAB program. Every biosphere reserve can have multiple national parks or wildlife sanctuaries within that, but every biosphere reserve should be recognized by UNESCO, and if it is recognized by UNESCO, it will be the part of WNBR. Like India has now 18 biosphere reserve, but every biosphere reserve was not recognized by UNESCO. Only 13 biosphere reserves are there which are recognized by UNESCO. So that's why it is in news that 13th biosphere reserve was a cold reserved biosphere reserve. Cold desert biosphere reserve, not reserve. Cold desert biosphere reserve, which was in Lahore Spiti in Ladakh area. Okay, so basically in Himachal. So it operates under UNESCO's Man and Biosphere program. That statement is correct. India has 13 biosphere reserve under WNBR. Yes, we know that. And Sao Tome and Principe became first country in world to have its entire territory designated as biosphere reserve. That, yes, the statement is very much correct, and this can be asked in one liner statement as well, like which country is designated as the entire area's biosphere reserve. Then there will be 4 options, then one has to be correct. Okay, so it is very important that you know this fact, and we ask that which of the statement given above is correct. So every statement is correct. So answer will be your all of the above, option D. We should know that 13th biosphere reserve is our cold desert biosphere reserve, which is included under WNBR list. Okay. Next is regarding IUCN green status assessment for the lion. If we are talking about lion in India, then we are talking about Asiatic lion, because in India Asiatic lions are there. So consider the following statement. Basically Asiatic lions are found in Gujarat area, and it is only native to Gujarat. Okay, so it is basically found in your Gir National Park, Gir Wildlife Sanctuaries, Mitiala Wildlife Sanctuaries. We have Barda Wildlife Sanctuary. Barda Wildlife Sanctuary is known to be the second home of Asiatic lion. We have Pania Wildlife Sanctuary. So all are in Gujarat and very famous for the conservation of Asiatic lion. Okay, so this statement is there, and recently IUCN Green statement was there that India's Asiatic lion population has shown growth, because we know that 891 Asiatic lions are there for India. This report was by IUCN, but the number was given by the Gujarat Forest Department. Okay, but yes, it's shown growth. Number 1, it measures only extinction risk similar to the red list. It does not measure the extinction risk. It is also measuring the ecological value or functional value of Asiatic lion and how it can be restored. So all these measures are basically all these parameters are basically measured. So it is not only extinction risk. So whenever the word only is written in any question, then you have to read that statement very carefully. It can be wrong by 90% chances. Okay, so statement number 1 is incorrect. The lion has been categorized as largely depleted. Okay, lions are regionally extinct in North Africa and Southwest Asia. Yes. India's Asiatic lion population has shown growth in recent assessment. So statement number 4 is correct. So this option number 2 is removed, eliminated. Statement number 1 is wrong. So these third and C and D options are eliminated. So even if we don't know second and third, our correct option is in front of us. Okay, so option number A, 2, 3, 4 are basically the correct statement. Yes, the lion has been categorized as largely depleted and it is regionally extinct in North Africa and Southwest Asia, not the whole Africa and not the whole Asia, but North Africa and Southwest Asia. Okay, so option number A is correct answer. So it is very important that even if you don't know the facts, your options elimination practice can save you. So this is the practice that we have to constantly make, and it will be very much helpful for you guys in your selection. Okay, so next is your with reference to Van Sanrakshan Evam Samvardhan Amendment rules. It is basically about the conservation of forests. Okay, so number 1, compensatory afforestation land may be notified as protected under the Indian Forest Act 1927. Yes, it was the land which was compensatory afforested, because in other area the forest was cleared for the establishment of an industry. So yes, it was be notified as protected under the Indian Forest Act, that it cannot be harmed, or timber cultivation or the timber or the major forest producers cannot be taken by any community. So it is protected. Okay, mining of strategic minerals requires compensatory afforestation at least equal to diverted forest area. It is not equal to the diverted forest area, it should be double the diverted forest area. Okay, so you can mine the strategic minerals from that area, but the double of the diverted forest area should be compensatory afforested in any other location. So the statement becomes wrong. Next is state government may grant working permission for certain linear projects before stage 1 approval. Okay, state government has that power. Projects involving diversion of forest land up to 5 hectares are cleared at regional level. Okay, so if the cleared forest area is within 5 hectare area, then and if exclude mining, then it can be cleared at the regional level or the Panchayati Raj area. Okay, so this statement is also correct. We have asked that which of the statement given above is correct. So first is correct, second is incorrect. So we know that option number A, 1, 3 and 4 is our correct answer. Okay, so at least equal to diverted forest area, no, it should be double the diverted area. Okay, so next question is consider the following pairs, initiative and associated objective that we have asked. Belém action mechanism, it is the action mechanism which was initiated in COP 30, which has been in Brazil. Okay, so it supports fossil fuel dependent workers during transition. And if we want the just transition, that we are transitioning from use of fossil fuel to the renewable energy, the workers which are dependent upon the fossil fuel industries, they have to be supported in very efficient manner. That this is written under Bellum action mechanism, that if employment level decreases, then there should be some rules for regional and local and national level, so that these peoples are not getting unemployed for the longer period of time. So some support should be from the government bodies. So statement number 1 is correct. Tropical forest forever facility, it penalizes deforestation through payment deductions. Yes, if you if you cut the forest by 1 hectare, then particular amount you should give to the authority. So it is basically penalizing the deforestation through payment deductions. So the statement is also matched correctly. Global cooling pledge, it is phase out HFC completely by 2040. HFC phase out is under Montreal Protocol and not under global cooling pledge. The cooling pledge says that we have to reduce the usage of refrigerants and ACs and etc., so that there is less requirement of cooling. Okay, so cooling pledge is there. One Shakti review judgment, it absolute prohibition for ex post facto clearances, that if any project has been assigned, if project is started, and if even if it does not have any environmental impact assessment report which was approved by the authority, even if this is the case, then this project can be cleared ex post facto. Then even if it has started, then the clearance can be given afterwards. So absolute prohibition was not there, it was basically case to case basis. Okay, so 1 and 2 are correctly matched and 3 and 4 are incorrectly matched, because cooling pledge, it is basically to cut cooling emissions by 68% by 2050 and not HFC phase out, because this is Kigali. Yes, sorry, HFC is basically of Kigali, and if we have to remove CFCs and HCFCs and we have to replace that by HFC, that was under Montreal Protocol. Because after Montreal Protocol we came to know that HFC is not ozone depleting substance, but it has a very high global warming potential, so it has to be phased out effectively. Okay, so that's why we came to know about Kigali agreement, and it is about the phasing out of HFCs. Okay, so it is incorrect statement. And pair 4 was that it recalled the blanket ban, that every ex post facto clearance is not illegal, that it can be done. So it is case to case basis, and it does not impose absolute prohibition. Even if it harms the environment, and even if it harms the environmental rules and regulations and community living in that area, but still it is not completely or absolutely prohibited. Okay, next we'll discuss with reference to Supreme Court's recall judgment in One Shakti versus Union of India, consider the following statement. This case was very much in news, and that's why MCQ is on that case. Number 1, the court completely validated ex post facto environmental clearance as a general rule, not as a general rule. It was again case to case basis. Yes, ex post facto clearance can be given, but it should not be a general rule that every project can have ex post facto clearance. Okay, so it was case to case basis. The statement number 1 is wrong. Second, the doctrine of conservation versus as coexistence was invoked to prevent demolition of completed public infrastructure, that even if that public infrastructure has been established, then that should be given ex post facto clearance, because there is a debate between conservation and coexistence. Multiple people have been employed there, multiple people are living there, so even if it harms the environment in a very less amount, then it can be approved as ex post facto clearance. Okay, so this statement number 2 is wrong, is correct. Option which of the statement given above is correct? So option number 2, B only, or 2 only is the answer. Okay, so next is under the consider the following regarding the Global Cooling Watch Report 2025. Number 1, under a business as usual scenario, BAU, basically cooling related emissions are projected to double by 2050. Okay, Cooling currently accounts for nearly 1/5 of global electricity consumption. These are very much facts which are written in that report. Even if you know that this report is published by which organization, the actual facts are basically not memorized by us. So these MCQs will help you that even if you don't know the actual facts, you can eliminate the option and can mark the correct option. Okay. So sustainable cooling pathway relies exclusively on refrigerant transition away from HFC. So if we know that exclusively on refrigerant transition, so only refrigerant transition is basically we are focused and it is exclusive. No, there should be ACs and there should be other industries as well from where the HFCs has to be phased out. So this exclusive word is wrong. Okay, so statement number third is wrong. So statement number third is in 3 options. So only 1, 2 and 4 are remained. So even if you don't know the actual thing which are written in the report, even if that the case, your answer can be correct. Okay, so yes, now we know that Global Cooling Watch report says that cooling related emissions are projected to be double by 2050, because as population is growing, the demands are also growing, and that is why this cooling related emissions are growing. And cooling currently accounts for nearly nearly 1/5 of global electricity consumption. That yes, 1/5. And district cooling systems can save up to 30 to 50% energy compared to individual building level systems. Yes, we know that even if we don't know all the fact, that 30% or 50% or 70%, we don't know. But we have taken one word exclusive, that sustainable cooling pathway cannot go through only refrigerant transition. It should be included many other factors as well. Okay, so statement number 1, 2 and 4 are correct. Third statement is wrong. So option A is there. Okay, so the pathway has 3 pillars: passive cooling, efficiency improvement, refrigerant transition. So these 3 pillars were there. Okay, so next we'll move with reference to Kigali amendment, that we know that it was about the phasing out of HFCs, not CFC and HCFCs. That was for Montreal in 1987. Consider the following statements. Number 1, it is an amendment to the UNFCCC adopted in 2006. No, it was not an amendment of UNFCCC, which is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It is not related to climate change. It is related to ozone depletion. So it was the amendment of Montreal Protocol in 1987. The statement is wrong. Second, it mandates complete phase out of HFC globally by 2050. Okay, so if statement number 1 is wrong, so we have asked that which of the above statement given is correct. So these 2 options are eliminated. Okay, so now 3 and 4 and 2 and 4. So basically 4 is your correct statement for sure. Basically, India is required to freeze HFC consumption by 2028 and begin reductions by 2030. That by 2028, India will freeze the production of HFCs, and by 2032, it will reduce the HFC consumption and production. Okay, so India belongs to group 3 countries under the amendment. Basically, Kigali agreement has 2 classifications, group A and group B. One was developed, another was developing. But India wanted that developed countries has the level of technology very high, and they can have the technology that they can phase out the HFC by any other compound. Developing countries need more time for the technological upgradation, and basically we are increasing, basically in our countries population is increasing and demand is also increasing, so we need more time. So we need more time, even more by the developing countries. So India suggested that there should be 3 categories: developed, developing, and plus other countries which require more time to phase out HFCs. So it has 3 groups, and India was in the 3rd group, which has the base year the 2025 and the freeze year 2028, and the target year was 2032. So target year was basically 2047. By that 2047 will be trying to reduce the HFC phasing out, HFC production by 85%. So basically that was the 3rd category in our Kigali amendment. So statement number 3rd and 4th are correct. Okay, so it does not mandate complete phase out. It is not talking about complete phase out. It is basically reduction by some amount. Okay, so second statement becomes incorrect. So option 3 and 4, A is the correct answer. Okay, so it is very important to know that. Next, we have with reference to COP30, which was in Belém, Brazil, consider the following statements. Number 1, the Global Mutirao aimed to align new NDCs, which is nationally determined contributions, with the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal, which was under Paris Agreement. Yes, basically it is, the aim was that. Global goal on adaptation indicators were finalized after years of negotiation. Yes, there was multiple negotiations that adaptation goal should be there. So ultimately in this COP30, global goal on adaptation indicators were finalized after years of negotiations. Second statement is also correct. The Tropical Forest Forever Facility TFFF is funded entirely through private bond markets. So how it can be true? Only private bond markets. It should be funded by public finances, by NGOs, by any other company. So it should be by different sources and not by only private bond markets. So statement number third is incorrect. So third statement is in two options. So these two options are eliminated and number 1 was correct. India signed the voluntary fossil fuel phase out roadmap at COP30. India did not sign, because India know that India is completely dependent on fossil fuel production for its electricity demand. Okay, so India did not sign that we are going to phase out fossil fuel production. So India did not sign. So option number 1 and 2 are correct and A option is your answer. Next, we have with reference to SAM initiative, sustainable aquaculture in mangrove ecosystem, that in mangrove system there should be some aquacultural activities, that fishing or the ponds or shrimp cultivation, etc. Okay, so number 1, it promotes shrimp monoculture by replacing mangrove forest with intensive aquaculture ponds. How it can be true? Because this initiative is basically talking about the coexistence of mangrove forests with the shrimp monoculture. It is not replacing the mangrove forest. It can be there. Shrimp monoculture can be there, but it is not by replacing of mangrove forests. So that's why this statement number 1 is wrong. It mandates retaining a portion of pond area under mangrove cover as a part of integrated mangrove aquaculture. Yes, this statement is correct, because pond area should be there and there should be some fishing and aquacultural activities and mangrove cover is also there. So this statement is correct. It received global technical recognition from the FAO of the United Nations. Yes, that is why it was in news, because it has bagged the award of global technical recognition from FAO. So statement number 2 and 3 is correct. So answer will be your 2 and 3. Okay, so option A is correct. Next is with reference to IUCN World Conservation Congress 2025, which occurred in Abu Dhabi, and consider the following statement. Number 1, the members assembly of IUCN allows voting rights only to sovereign governments. It is basically for NGOs as well and private players and companies as well. Okay, so that we see that this statement is wrong or right. The Congress adopted for the first time a motion calling for supply side measures for a just phase out of fossil fuels. Okay, that statement is right. IUCN has full membership status at UN General Assembly. It does not have full membership status. So statement number 3 is wrong. So we have asked that which of the statement given above is incorrect. Okay, above is incorrect. So third statement is incorrect and it eliminates the option C. And it allows voting rights only to sovereign governments. No, it is for NGOs as well. So this statement is also wrong. So Congress adopted, yes, for the first time, because we want that there should be some supply side measures for a just phase out of fossil fuel, that supply should be decreased. We cannot decrease the demand, because people need electricity, people need energy. They need energy, even if it comes from coal or any other sources. We have to increase the supply of renewable resources, and that's why it is responsible for decreasing the use of coal for energy production. Okay, so statement number 1 and 3 are wrong. So option B will be your answer, because government and civil society organization will have the voting right assembly, that we know. Okay, IUCN, we know that it is a kind of an NGO. In 1948 it was established, International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. It is responsible for the report red list, pink list and green list. And we know that 9 categories are there: extinct, extinct in wild, critically endangered, vulnerable, we know data deficient, least concern, and we not evaluated. So these are basically the list of red list and the pink list. Okay, so we know that what is IUCN. I'm not going into the detail of IUCN, just an overview. Next is, consider the following statements regarding the Aravalli Hills. Okay, Aravalli Hills going from Gujarat to Rajasthan to Haryana to ultimately Delhi. So these areas are covered. They act as water divide between Indus river system and Ganga river system. This is Aravalli, Indus river system goes there and Ganga river system goes there. Okay, so yes, it is basically one of the part of India's national water divide. India's national water divide, Aravalli Hills, and then Western Ghats, and then we have Vindhyas. So this is your India's water divide. So this statement is correct. Banas is west flowing river originating from the Aravalli Hills. Banas, yes, originates from Aravalli Hills, but it goes from this area to ultimately the east area, making it a tributary of Chambal river, and again Chambal river is a tributary of Yamuna river. So Banas to Chambal, Chambal to Yamuna, it is the east flowing river. So this statement is wrong. The Supreme Court has presently stayed 100-meter elevation based definition of Aravallis. Yes, it is basically for the time being it is stated that the Aravallis are not just Aravalli Hill which has height of 100 meter, because it will ultimately remove the 90% of Aravallis from the protection list. So for now Supreme Court has stayed that that decision, and it was basically being taken by the advisory of government only. Okay, so this statement is correct. In 1992, Aravalli notification prohibited all mining activities across the entire Aravalli range in India. It was basically responsible for the stoppage of illegal mining, but all mining activities were not prohibited because it was case to case basis. So which of the statement above is correct? So first was correct, second was incorrect. If second is incorrect, then these two options are eliminated. 1 and 3 are right, and okay, so 1 and 3 are correct because it was not responsible for prohibition of all mining related activities, because it was again case to case basis judgment. So option number A is your correct option. Next we have, with reference to global methane status report, methane gas, very high global warming potential, basically released from livestock industries and agriculture, and it is also greenhouse gas which is responsible for the global warming and climate change. Okay, so the report basically says what? Number 1, methane emissions must decline by 30 to 60% by 2030 to align with the 1.5 degree pathway which was of Paris Agreement. Okay. Agriculture contributes the largest share of global methane emission. Very true. Which is basically asked which of the following statement is correct. So second is correct. So it eliminates one option. Okay. India has signed the global methane pledge but has not specified agricultural methane target in NDCs. Okay. Methane contributes to the formation of tropospheric ozone. That is very important. Yes, methane is responsible for the creation of tropospheric ozone, which is kind of a secondary pollutant, and it is responsible for our contamination of lungs and respirational diseases. And yes, this statement is correct. So we know that second and fourth are correct. So second and fourth are correct in two options. So 1, 2 and 4 can be correct option, or 1, 2, 3, 4 can be the correct option. Okay, so methane contributes to the formation of tropospheric ozone, that we know. India has signed the global methane pledge. India has not signed the global methane pledge yet. So next we'll move to 19th number question. Consider the following species: Great Indian Bustard, Lesser Florican, Bengal Florican, Manipur Bro Antlered Deer. Basically these all are the species which are included in the species recovery program? The question says that which of the following species are included in the species recovery program? Then answer is all of the above, because in species recovery program there are total 22 species that we have given in our answer format. That Great Indian bustard, which is basically found in Rajasthan area and in Desert National Park. And if we talk about these 4 species, then all 4 species are found in the grassland areas. These are not found in the wetland areas where water is less. Those grasslands are very much famous for habitat of these species. Okay, so statement number, so the option number D is the answer. Next we'll move to, with reference to recent conservation and environmental governance developments, consider the following pairs. We have to correctly match the pairs. First, Godavarman judgment 1996, that it expanded the definition of forest beyond ownership status. This judgment basically says that the definition of forest lies in the dictionary definition, that the dictionary definition of forest is the actual definition that we have to follow, and it is not like that this forest is owned by state government, central government or any other private individual. If this basically conforms to the dictionary definition of forest, then that will be called forest. So statement number 1 or option number 1 is correctly matched. Second statement, Kant enclave judgment, it upheld private real estate rights in Aravali forest areas. No, in Aravali forest areas, private real estate rights were not upheld. Basically, these were prohibited. So this statement number, option number 2 is incorrectly matched. Methane alert and response system, satellite based detection of major methane leaks, that even if there is major amount of methane present, so with the help of satellites we can find that which of the areas which are responsible for more methane production, as methane is global greenhouse gas and it has very global high warming potential, and that's why we want to prohibit its concentration. Okay, so statement number 3 is correctly matched. IEA Global Methane Tracker, it focuses primarily on agricultural methane emissions. This tracker is not for agricultural methane. Yes, agriculture is the largest share of methane production, but it is basically for the energy sector. So this option number 4 is also not correctly matched. So which of the pair are given correctly matched? So option number 1 and 3. So option A, 1 and 3 is the answer. Okay, so these are basically your 20 MCQs for today, and I hope this is giving you some clarity that how we are going to cover our current affairs through MCQs, and how the facts can be memorized by you guys, that can be in your memory for longer period of time. So we'll see you in day 2 with more MCQs and with more 20 more important topics. So till then, see you and thank you so much. All the best.